What you see behind me is a tree known as Wollemi pine, the one you see right now at Sale Botanical Gardens. But in order to see them in the wild, you have to go to Wollemi National Park near Sydney. And the exact location of these trees is a heavily guarded secret. The reason is there's only less than 100 of them left in the wild. So this is a really rare type of tree. And the reason that this tree is really rare is because these trees existed along with dinosaurs. The thing about Wollemi pine is, up until a few decades ago, everyone thought that the tree was extinct. And the reason is, belongs to a group of trees that evolved around the Cretaceous period, the period where dinosaurs roamed the earth. During that time, the continent of Australia was a lot more south than it is right now. And at that time, it was too cold for trees like the Wollemi to evolve in Australia. But slowly, the Australian continent started drifting upwards. And this drift brought in new sea currents, and these sea currents brought warmer and drier air to the continent. And eventually, the Wollemi pine like this was able to evolve in this warmer and drier new climate of the country. But eventually, Australia drifted too much towards north, and the climate became too dry, and the distribution of the Wollemi reduced, and all of the scientists thought it went extinct around 8 million years ago, but it didn't. In 1994, a bushwatcher named David Noble was taking a hike around Wollemi National Park near Sydney, and that's when he stumbled upon a giant canyon, and that's filled with Wollemi pine trees like this. The discovery was hailed as the greatest botanic achievement of the last 100 years, and one botanist compared the discovery to finding a dinosaur in the Sydney harbour, and this is the botanical equivalent of that. In order to know more about these plants, I went to the Australian Botanic Garden Annan's plant bank, the place where most of the groundbreaking research regarding the Wollemi pines has been done. Another specialty of the Wollemi pines is the bubbly type of bark that they have. Pines can reproduce by a method known as self-coppicing. In this method, new plantlets will sprout spontaneously from the base of an older plantlet. In this method, the new plant produced is genetically identical to the parent plant. So this method produces little genetic diversity. And because all the 100 Wollemi pines in the wild reproduce using this method, all of the Wollemi pines in the wild have the exact same genome. What we discussed before is the asexual way in which Wollemi pines reproduce. But Wollemi pines can also reproduce using a sexual way. The male cones of the Wollemi tree produce many pollen grains, and these pollen grains travel over to the female cones. And once they reach here, the female cones produce seeds. Now, one cone can produce like 250 seeds, but of these 250, only like 10% of them will be viable. And of these viable seeds, they will give rise to new Wollemi plants. So it's very difficult to grow a Wollemi pine using its cone. So at some point in their evolutionary history, Wollemi pines encountered a genetic bottleneck. They stopped using this sexual method of reproduction as their method of propagation and adopted an asexual method as their main way to propagate. But right now, the Wollemi plants are facing another threat. There's a fungus known as Phytophthora that infects the needles and the root of the Wollemi plants and causes them to rot early. Plants around the Wollemi population have shown signs of damage from this fungus. And human activities are transporting this fungus at faster rates than it is done naturally. But in 2020, these plants faced another threat when a forest fire came dangerously close to the canyon where they were sequestering. But luckily, the team of brave firefighters and scientists was able to stop the forest fire before it can do any damage to the Wollemi trees. Now, incidents like these taught scientists how fragile the population of Wollemi pines is. So they took samples of the population, they took tissue cultures of the population, and right now these tissue cultures are grown in botanical gardens all over the world. In fact, you can buy a Wollemi plant in any of these nurseries. Imagine this tree was on the brink of extinction, and right now you can buy it from any nursery in Australia. You can have this tree in your backyard. And as I said, it's like finding a dinosaur on your backyard. It's incredible that this tree was once on the brink of extinction, and right now you can buy this tree in any nursery across Australia. But I think the story is more about how incredible the survival story of Wollemi pine is. I mean, this tree existed along with the dinosaurs, survived a great extinction event, then survived wildfires, then survived by only existing in a narrow gorge for millions of years, and right now it's in every botanical garden of the country. So, somehow, against all of these odds, this tree is still here.